Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. I don't know, it's like 6:30 in the morning, and we're starting on the new job. Swing around, there's cutting some good pine. I could drive up in here with my pickup. I didn't show it, I'll show it sometime here, but we're probably half a mile in off the tar road, and there's kind of a hump here. There's some old gravel pits from probably 40 years ago, but this piece has got a lot of pine in it, which I don't mind. So, and it's good pine too, like this pine right here. I need my GoPro, I'm using my phone. So see, that's not a very big pine. That's probably only maybe 10 inches at the butt, but a lot of pine that you get into is nasty like that, but Irving, one of our pine mills, they really like, they'll take that type of smooth pine down to 5 inches as long as it's straight and a good stick of wood. So I don't know what they make with it, but I mean lumber, but so pine adds up. So that, and you know, there's enough good wood here where the landowners want to cut it again, so I'm trying to cut it in a way that when I get to a better spot I can show it. Right here isn't a good spot, but you can kind of see enough of, well, it's probably hard to see right there and stuff. Leave enough pine, and some of this hardwood, the next time it come around you'll be able to cut it. So, but anyways, I'll be back. So I'm back. See Wes right up in there, a little bit of a knoll there. Try to show you, he's loading up some pine logs, but his windows are, I don't know if it's the windows or my phone, it's nasty, but it's still a little hard to tell. But if you look, you can see the tops, and I think if you look at the crown, and it's a little hard to tell on camera, and it's a little harder to see the pine, but you can see the pine tops if you really pay attention. Then there's oak. So I've thinned this in a way to try to leave, and I'll find another spot where I can show it, but where there's pine, to kind of leave 4 or 5 pines or 2 or 3 pines or a clump together so that they'll hold up, and you know, they have good crowns to that, you know, they'll better survive wind and weather and stuff like that. So, but we want to open it up enough, like right in here and over in there, there's a little more pine regeneration. You've got to get enough light to the ground or else you won't get pine regeneration. So in here there was a lot of, call them whippies or undergrowth, like all the hardwood that you see out through there, which makes it like this job's got good wood, but it would have been a lot of work with just a buncher. So I mean, not a buncher, just the processor. It's hard to get rid of all those whippies. And with a buncher, you can just skim through it, and you can do a job like this a lot better with the buncher than you could cutting off the stump or cutting wood by hand. So, one of the things you have to be careful about cutting pine, for those of you who don't know, is that's a good sized tree right there. That's probably, the butt is, you know, just the surface is probably 24 inches, something like that. But what you have to be careful with, it's not just the way I do it, whether you cut wood by hand or whatever, is this is really tall. If you're cutting wood by hand, you might, when you first cut a couple trees and there's some brush, that'll slow the impact of the top. But if you're not careful with a buncher and you are laying the wood like that over other trees, and depending on where the butts are, you'll break the tops out. Or if you're not careful, you'll break it where they still have logs, and it's just, pine is a little brittle when it really hits like that. So you've got to be careful, even with the buncher, that you try to maybe tilt the head so it parallels the wood that's there, so it's not gonna, if it crosses like that tree right there, it's gonna break. So that's something else you got to pay attention to. You can see right there the top broke out of that tree, and if you look, you can see the broken part right there. So that was just hanging on as I was pulling this pine tree back. That's fine because that's pulp. There's no logs there, so it's going to make 2 short pieces of pulp, which we can fit into the load. But what you wouldn't want it to is, you wouldn't want it to break right where the head is right now. If it broke where the head is right now, you'd break a log.
I appreciate your giving clarity.
Turn the radio down, but there Wes goes with almost, I think he's got a little room in the center. But that shows how quick the pine logs add up. He just picked up what I had processed at the top and just a little pile right there, and he's almost loaded. So that's why pine adds up so quick. So you can see him loading a little bit. I'm not sure if he... Sometimes Wes, depend on what's there, like he's got some short logs right there, and I think sometimes, depending on how much pine is, he'll save those short logs out and then do a buggy with just short logs. Depends on how much 16s there are. So, but anyways, that's pine just adds up. So we don't usually get I mean, it's around, but this property here has a lot of pine. It's very consistent. So I got a little crotch right here where I cut a 16-foot log off there, so it's this little chunk I can't use. So I'm just gonna go down right here and just like that. And I don't need to trim any more off those. I can cut another 16 and might get another short log out of that, out of the top there. So I'm gonna see if you guys can see here, but right in there you'll see there's a clump of pines, and I'm trying to leave where I can like that, and then space the rest of them out, like just one there and there. It's hard to see on camera, but there's a lot of wood left, and up in there, it doesn't show up on camera real well, but I really like the way this looks after I processed it. You can kind of see these tops, and there's more over there. So I really like the way this cut is coming out. And it's really hard to tell what it kind of looks like until you process the wood. So once I process all the wood I laid down with the buncher, you can really see. You can really see how, like my Bluetooth. You can really see how things come out. So I really, they wanted to cut it, but they didn't want to cut it. They want to cut it again. So it's a combination of forestry and making sure there's enough left so that I would want to come back and cut it again. So the way it's looking after processing, I really like the way it's coming out. The sun was blaring like crazy, so you're not gonna be able to see, but this you can kind of see some of it's a real rough pine tree. So I've got some of these rougher ones, I have to take the head and kind of trim some of the knottier branches off. I'm gonna put a little crossing right here. You can't even barely tell. There's a little wet run that runs down through here, and it's not a brook, but I think when it's real wet it does flow, and it's a little wet right now. So I just laid a bunch of hardwood poles in here crosswise, and that way we won't rut up the center of it. And we'll just pull all these out when I'm done, or when Wes is done. And but that'll keep Wes up afloat, and as you can see, I'm going right across it now. There's a little bank right here, and there's a little teardrop loop here, and there's the railroad tracks right up here, and I'll be all the way to the back of this piece.
So I'll show you a little bit of the thinning. In this section there wasn't really any pine, mostly hardwood, but you can kind of see the crowns are fairly well spaced out, but they're not, you know, they have a little bit of structure, and these oak trees, but it's harder to tell on camera, but I think this has come out pretty well. Up front, where there was a little more pine, I think the landowners were a little concerned that I was cutting a little too hard, but I really don't think that's the case. I think it's more of a look. There's less pine. It looks like there's a lot of pine, a lot of stems, but there isn't. So I might have to be a little more careful with the stem placement. Even if the pine should go, I might have to do a little more spacing out like this, just so it's more of a look than forestry. So, but that's just a little bit of tweaking. They're pretty happy with that. So, but I figured I'd show you this a little bit, and I think this came out pretty nice. And the other thing with the buncher, you'll notice that nothing's disturbed on the sides, all that regen. Like if a processor had done this, there'd be a lot more damage off to the side, so it has a less obstructed look. Oh, there goes a couple deer across the road. Huh. Oh, there's a fawn too. I wish I could get it on camera. Two twin fawns. Ah. Anyways, I just shut the processor off. It's about 6 o'clock. But there's actually this probably was an old skid trail, but the landowner kept it up. So it's kind of nice to be able to not have to walk the processor all the way out. So I can drive up in here in the morning and be real lazy. Well, we're just about out to the yard. We'll see what Wes has got out here. I think Mark's gonna come tomorrow and start trucking, so yeah, well, I think Wes is forwarded about 2 days, something like that. So, because he got here, today's Thursday, Lobed was here Tuesday afternoon. It looks like he's got a whole pile of oak logs going, and then let's load of pine pulp. Probably it's the hardwood, probably close to 3 loads, probably 3 loads, and hardwood pulp, and then there's quite a those are all 16, so 4 or 5 loads of pine logs maybe. That's pretty good for a couple days. I'm happy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It was a little bit of this, a little bit of that the last couple days. So like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you later.